Yo, what's up, guys? Screwballs MMA here, back with another video. We're gonna be doing the UFC Honor Awards 2025. Starting off with, edit that out. The UFC Knockout of the Year. Our nominees are Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria, Marcelo Huffy KO versus Robert Green, Lerone Murphy's spinning elbow KO over Aaron Pico, and the Quinlan Salkill high kick over Nazareth Haparest. And our the results are in, and our knockout of the year goes to Marcelo Huffy versus Bobby Green. This KO was just beautiful. Oh, sorry. My it's actually, let me recenter that. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, this was just such a beautiful spinning wheel kick. Like, this thing was just beautiful from Marcelo Huffy. And I think it's the best KO of the year. And I really don't think that any of the other ones come close. You could maybe argue Ilya versus Charles is due to the level of competition. Charles Oliveira versus Bobby Green. But this KO is just smooth. It's beautiful. I'm moving on to the next one. Next up, we got UFC Submission of the Years. We got Marab Dvalishvili submission over Sean O'Malley. Gene Silva's submission over Bryce Mitchell. Charles Oliveira's submission over Mateusz Gamrot, and a little crafty one that I don't think many people would have on theirs. Charles Jourdain's versus Davey Grant. Sorry, I still have this thing chopped. Sorry, guys. I gotta. There we go. Now we're good. We're good. We're good. Um. Sorry. I'll edit that out. Charles Jourdain versus Davey Grant's spinning elbow in the high elbow guillotine. Your winner, Charles Oliveira versus Mateus Gamma, because it's a bit of a comeback of the year too. We'll get to that later, but I think that this is a really cheeky one. Charles Oliveira was coming in. People didn't know how he was going to look. He's coming off a loss to Ilia Topuria 5 months prior, 4 or 5 months prior, and he just completely dismantled and outgrappled Gamma on the feet, on the ground. Had him in an omoplata attempt, had his back in round one. In round two, picked him up, dumps him, took his back, choked him with a face crank rear naked choke. On to the next award. We are so back. We got Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot fight at UFC Fight Night Rio. We got Dominic Reyes knocking out Nikita Krylov at UFC 314, and Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez at UFC 314, and finally Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320. And our winner for the We Are So Back award, drum roll, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. If there was anything else, man, the way that Diego pitched a sort of masterclass. There was some risky moments in here, but overall, he was just able to outdo, outwork, and outpoint Diego Lopez on the feet in a beautiful performance coming off back-to-back KO losses. We were all scared for the Volk man in this fight. You're lying if you say you weren't. But he pitched a beautiful game plan and a beautiful fight. He looked great out there. Beat the 35 and up curse. I believe he was 37, and he looks beautiful. And he's gonna do it again, hopefully. Next up, we have the UFC Event of the Year award. We got UFC 314, UFC 320, UFC 323, and UFC 317. Drum roll, please. UFC 314. This was just a beautiful card start to finish. We had this fight, of course. Diego Lopez versus Alexander Volkanovski. We had Paddy Pimblett versus Jean Silva. We had Paddy Pimblett versus getting CT Charles Michael Chandler. Sorry guys, I'm losing it out here. Got the CTE already. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. We have Bryce Mitchell versus Mr. Jean Silva. We had Dominic Reyes versus Nikita Krylov. It was just overall a good card start to finish. There was no real stinky fights on here, and it was just a good card start to finish. which I can't say for most of the cards this year. UFC debut of the year. We got Malcolm Wellmaker's right hook KO over Cameron Simon. Quinlan Salkill's knockout over Anshel, India's greatest warrior Jubilee. Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad at the UFC Qatar card. And Kevin Vallejos versus Sungwoo Choi. The winner for the UFC 2025 Debut of the Year award, Malcolm Wellmaker. This was a beautiful KO. And Cameron Simon, I know he's getting smoked pretty much in every other fight he's in, but I still think he's very talented. And I believe that this is a beautiful KO. And just, it was a beautiful right hand. Cameron Simon, man, this was just, it was hard to see, but at the same time, such a beautiful KO. UFC Comeback of the Year award. We got Neil Magny versus Jake Matthews at UFC Fight Night Perth. We have Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree at UFC 320. We have Cesar Almeida versus Abdul Rasak Hassan at UFC Vegas. Then we have Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota at UFC Fight Night Hill versus Roundtree. And the Comeback of the Year award goes to Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree. Just, he got pretty much shut down in the first two rounds of that fight, and just in round three, he was able to just put it all together with the body work, the head shots, elbows, knees, front kicks, right hands, left hands, and he just pitched a beautiful third round to get the flatline KO over Khalil Roundtree. Next up, we have the Fraud Check of the Year award. It's in quotation marks because I don't think any of these are frauds. I don't think they're really fraud checks, to be honest. I wanted to do Upset of the Year, but some of these weren't really that big of upsets in terms of where the lines were and everything else like that. And I did, and also, if it was upsets, I'd probably put Jan versus Marab in here, but they weren't really upsets. They were more just kind of beating prospects when people didn't expect them to win. And I think this is a pretty obvious one, but there were some pretty good ones. I would say Malcolm Wellmaker's actually versus Ethan Ewing is a good one. Short notice. Charles Jourdain's flatline KO over Loner Kavanagh. Bo Nichols versus Renier de Ritter at UFC Demose, and Peyton Talbot versus Howney Barcelos at UFC 311. And the winner goes to Howney Barcelos versus Peyton Talbot. This was a 30-26 complete domination, which I can't say about the rest of these. Some of them they were either losing before or they got like a finish, and you didn't really see a full domination with and I thought a lot of people maybe would say the Ewing versus Wellmaker, but I don't think it was dominant enough. I thought it was actually pretty close but clear fight. Like Ethan Ewing clearly won, but round 1 and 2 were very close, and he did kind of just chin Max and eat some huge right hands. So that's kind of why I didn't put it there. Yeah, Howney just dismantled on the feet and on the ground, start to finish. Just beat up Peyton Talbot for 3 straight rounds as a plus 1,000 underdog. So I'm gonna give it to him. You see, best reinsurgent fighter of the year. This is kind of a weird award. I didn't know how to explain it, but this is a fighter who, at the start of the year, you didn't think they were going to go on to do great things, and they did. I have Paulo Costa. I picked him to beat Kopylov, but he just looked good in this fight, start to finish. He was like a vintage, not even vintage. I think this is the best Paulo Costa we've ever seen. Body kicks, body work, coming up top to the head, and just blasting kicks to the ribs of Roman Kopylov. I got Charles Jourdain versus Dave Grant. Charles Jourdain's move to bantamweight has been amazing for him. He looks great at this division. He's perfect size. He's not overcutting the weight, and he's just looks so fast and so technical out there. And this was such a good. Nobody has ever done. I don't want to be that guy, but man, who does that to Davy Grant, man? Who does that to Davy Grant? A flying knee to the skull, and then chokes him out with his patented high elbow guillotine. Then Anthony Hernandez, it might seem like a weird one for most people, but I think at the start of the year, if you said Anthony Hernandez was going to be the toughest test of the champion and a top contender, people would say no, he wouldn't. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think many people expected him to be in the top four at the end of the year. So I put him here as a honorable mention, and then Kamaru Usman. He's down 3. I think a lot of people picked Buckley to TKO him or KO him in this fight. Coming off 2 losses to Leon Edwards, which weren't aging well by the time this fight happened, and his loss to Chimaev, which didn't age horribly, but at the same time, it wasn't a good look. Like, it aged pretty well, but it wasn't a good look being down 3. And he didn't dominate start to finish, but the first 4 rounds he beat him very dominantly and heavily. Just took him down, couldn't get back up, just controlled him and kept him there. So I think that's pretty good. But I'm gonna give it to Jourdain because I think he's going to be a super improved fighter in 2026, and I think by the end of the year he can be close to the top 5 and in the top 10. And he's the best Canadian bantamweight. He's the best Canadian fighter in the UFC. Sorry, Zahabi. Sorry him a lot. This is Canada's best chance. And he's still pretty young, which a lot of people don't understand. And his brother, the momentum his brother's going to give, he's going to the top. We got Heartbreak of the Year award. These are all so sad. This is sort of subjective, but I feel like most people agree with this. We got this is just such a sad award. These are all AI, by the way. All 4 of these photos are AI. We got Alberg versus Dominic Reyes at UFC Fight Night Perth. Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria at UFC 317. Brandon Royval versus Manel Cap at UFC Vegas 103. And Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev at UFC 322. All these are equally AI and equally heartbreaking in their own way, but everyone felt something when they watched this KO happen. Nobody wanted to see this. Yeah, I think even Ilya fans were sad for Oliveira in this moment. Just put his lights out. Nobody's ever done it to Oliveira, and it was just heartbreaking, to say the least. UFC Fights of the Year. This is the big one. I think a lot of people really like this. Really like this. We got Brandon Royval. I don't know why it says versus Piotr Jan versus Marab at 317. It's supposed to say it's supposed to say Joshua Van. I think that might be some copying and pasting issues here from the editing team. I'll take a look at them. I'll fire the editing team after this. It's all good though. We'll just fire the editing team. They're gone. Yeah. Then we got Yuri Prohaska, also spelt wrong, but that's okay. Versus Khalil Rountree at UFC 320. We got Diego Lopez versus Jean Silva at UFC Noche, and Sadim Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota at UFC Fight Night Hill versus Rountree. A lot of people are going to pick Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. I'm not. Yuri versus this fight meant something to me. This meant something to me. So I'm gonna go with this one. I just think it was just a beautiful, beautiful fight. And that third round was for sure round of the year. If you think Royval versus Van's better, because overall I think the 3 rounds are more consistent. Because round 1 of this fight is entertaining, but it's not over the top. But round 3, there was no time in this year where I felt the adrenaline of UFC round 3 and just the pure testosterone that this fight contained. You got UFC Performance of the Year. We got Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 323. Also firing the editing team for putting 232. Yeah, editing team's done. I can't lie, they're getting fired straight up. UFC Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. UFC 317 and Islam Makhachev versus JDM. UFC 322. Call me crazy. I think it's Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili. He 50-45'd him. I don't think there's an argument for the first 2 rounds. Maybe round 1. Round 2 through 5, dominant rounds by Piotr Jan, dunking him on his head, blasting body kicks, blasting left hooks to liver. and just start to finish a domination over such a dominant fighter throughout the year. Like when you look at it, Merab barely lost. He lost 3 or 4 rounds before this fight out of 15 rounds of the year. So I think this was just a beautiful, beautiful performance by Jan. Like just mixed up. Not only did he defend almost all the takedowns, he also took him down 5 times, slammed him, beat him up, pieced him up with the jab. You could see the face of Merab in this photo. Just horrible start to finish. Then we got UFC Fighter of the Year, where we got Merab Dvalishvili, Islam Makhachev, Joshua Van, and Ilia Topuria. Merab, of course, three successful title defenses, one failed one, so 4 title fights, won 3 of them. Islam Makhachev, win over Makano, not that good. Win over JDM, incredibly impressive. Joshua Van, 4 wins, won the belt, started the year unranked, so very good for him. Ilia Topuria, only 1 fight, 1 win over Charles Oliveira, getting a 2-division champion status. It's still Merab. I'm sorry, I don't care that he lost to Petr Yan. His activity, and he didn't have to fight Yan. There was no obligation. If he would have waited till even April of next year to fight Yan, nobody would have complained and said he was inactive. He took the chance. He got smoked, but I still think he's fight of the year. And that's going to do it for the UFC 2025 awards ceremony. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at ScrewballsMMA. And we'll see you in the next one.